like what you do for a living? These things you see?
You're retiring. 6 more days and you're all the way gone.
So how long have you lived here?
Too long.
Captain, while a great many people see you as a hero, there are some who'd prefer the word vigilante. You've operated with unlimited power and no supervision. That's something the world can no longer tolerate. There will be consequences.
Captain, you seem a little defensive. Well, it's been a long day. If we can't accept limitations, we're no better than bad guys.
That's not the way I see it.
Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth.
I just want to make sure we consider all our options. The people that shoot at you usually wind up shooting at me.
Do you really want to punch your way out of this?
You know I wouldn't do this if I had any other choice. But he's my friend. So was I.
And who the fuck are we going to replace him with?
All right, we're back. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Big thanks to Kid Dynamite for making that video. He's a awesome content producer. He made a recent one with Steven and Trump. Have you seen that? Steven, obviously you've seen that, right?
I haven't.
Oh god, we gotta find the link for that. Hold on, let me link everybody just the video for the auditions first.
Isn't this Unfiltered? I don't know. This is the Destiny fucking channel.
Oh come on, dude, it's funny, man. We gotta help. I mean, Kid Dynamite, man, just promoting his content stuff. So, but folks that want to.
Are you gonna DMCA this VOD, Steven?
It's not his. It's not
Unfortunately, I
his,
don't think
man.
there's enough content for me to DMCA.
Why, just his head and shit like that? Oh man. But yeah, for those of you that are interested in auditioning for Unfiltered, just to give you a quick blurb about just Feature Unfiltered, right now I'm just evaluating everything. Me and Steven are kind of still trying to do these from time to time. I mean, moving forward, I'm open to a lot of possibilities. So just straight out replacing Richard is probably impossible. So, there's got to be a little bit of, it's just a little bit of a change probably to the show. Still, it's going to always be true to its namesake, Unfiltered, but we'll have to see what's out there, and I really want to see what kind of talent is out there, talent that we don't even know about. And so I'm giving everybody a chance. Definitely send your videos, be creative, please. Try to be as creative as possible. I don't know about and creative, but definitely be as creative as you can and try to at least exemplify why you would be good on the show, and just anything like that, because we'll definitely take in consideration. We might even have an episode where we just watch some of them and check it out.
Must have some free time now, so maybe.
Well, he's apparently pretty busy too, but otherwise we would have had him. We would have had him on to talk about the whole issue. All right, well let's continue on here. And by the way, email those to Unfiltered at ChanManV.tv. Actually, let me just put that in the YouTube. One other thing too, guys, we are taking questions at the end of the show, or call-ins. We're going to be doing a few call-ins at the end of the show. So if you're interested in call-ins, definitely hang out in this channel. Let's see. Actually, let me send the Discord channel here. Come in and hang out in this Discord channel and talk to Wars. Wars will be asking you what you plan on talking about, doing a little bit of filtering on Unfiltered, but we definitely don't want a ton of trolls. So hopefully you guys can participate in that. If not, just tweet your questions too at Unfiltered, just Unfiltered GG, and I'll try to take them there too. Okay, so let's move on to some non-esport or a non-esport topic, but still pertaining to gaming, which is lawsuits recently. There's been a lot of lawsuits that have been or lawsuit settlements that have been decided some very high profile ones, one being Aaron Andrews and the whole peephole thing, peephole incident, and as well as Hulk Hogan, and with
Hulk Hogan has not been decided. He's been awarded, but there's going to be an appeal, so we have.
Well, sure. I mean the appeal isn't even like completed with Aaron Andrews too. So,
okay, sure.
Yeah. So the appeals, obviously, those are going to go on. There could be just settlements even there. So, but the initial decisions made on these are definitely something to talk about. So Aaron Andrews, $55 million. Just with the being half and half between the guy who actually shot the footage through the keyhole or whatever, and as well as the hotel itself. And let's just talk about it first, and then we'll talk about the Hulk Hogan thing. Any thoughts, comments on that? I mean, it sounded like she got the max that they were shooting for, in terms of that, and most of it had to do with emotional distress. More so than, the Hulk Hogan situation, where you could actually say that it's destroyed his money making, his brand business, and his ability to make money. Thoughts on Aaron Andrews thing, Richard?
No, I'll let Steven go
Yeah,
first.
Steven?
I mean, I think the reward seems fine. I mean, if you go to a hotel, I think you have like a reasonable expectation of privacy. No, I don't. It didn't seem like anything controversial happened here. I don't understand. What is the controversial opinion to take? What's the controversial stance? What are some people saying the hotel shouldn't be liable at all, or?
Well, I think it's maybe just the amount. I think the controversy just might be the amount she was awarded. It's hard to judge that. I mean, how do you judge like really emotional distress? Yeah.
I don't know. How much was she awarded exactly?
$55 million. But 28 million or something was from the guy. The guy, like, obviously does not have $28 million. I mean, the guy probably doesn't even have $1 million, honestly. So she'll probably get nothing from that guy. But the hotel, she should get a lot of it from the hotel. I would say somewhere at 20 million or so. In the end, she'll probably just get like a few million after like lawyer fees, and I don't know, maybe she settles on something too, just with appeals, because I think that happens a lot too.
Does that make her a porn star?
I don't see the correlation there. What do you mean?
How much money did she get paid for that fucking footage, dude?
I don't think I would compare it to that. But Richard, thoughts?
Look, I mean that trial. I'm kind of like Steven. I'm a little bit sort of indifferent. Like, I think
it doesn't seem like there's another side to take.
Like, there isn't like really a flip side to that coin. Like, just obviously, like Steven says, you have a right to fucking privacy.
Exactly.
And look, I'm a journalist, so this is in my wheelhouse. When you have to balance, like right to privacy over public interest, can get a bit murky. But there was nothing here that was justifiable. And it's certainly not like the Hulk Hogan case.
Yeah, I mean, the Hulk Hogan one is definitely where like a couple. Well, I mean, the Hulk Hogan case involves Gawker, which is which owns Kotaku too.
Do you know if there's any plans to file criminal charges?
You mean with the Aaron Andrews thing?
No, with Hulk Hogan.
Oh, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Oh,
those guys should go to the fucking ground for that shit.
They haven't. They haven't really talked about that, and this is the problem you've got with this Bubba the Love Sponge character, that is kind of involved in it and has spoke directly to Gorka, and whose testimony wasn't allowed. He wasn't allowed to be called as a witness, I think, in the trial. The judge ruled that he was a biased witness, so therefore he couldn't be called to the stand because his testimony would have to be discounted. And that was a huge factor in Gorka's defense, apparently. Now, I'm like any sane person. I loathe Gorka and what they do. And this idea that because you're a celebrity, elements of your privacy has to be surrendered. I do loathe that outlook, and I loathe them as a publication, and things like Jezebel and Kotaku and all these websites that are in the Gorka media portfolio, deplorable, and have consistently put out very biased, agenda-driven propaganda. But that said, I do find the discussion about First Amendment rights and everything else to be truly fascinating. I think you are stretching the First Amendment to breaking point when you're wanting to basically publish a sex tape that was recorded by a husband purposefully.
Yeah, let's give a little bit of the background. I think some of the people that are watching probably don't know it. So what we're talking about is Hulk Hogan is in a lawsuit, and it all stems from a sex tape that was made by, like you said, a husband of the woman he was, doing the sex tape with, which happened to be his best friend at the time, and the woman that we're talking about is his best friend's wife. And it wasn't just the sex tape on it. What actually ended up, it was the sex tape, but what ended up I think causing a lot of crazy destruction from the standpoint of his image and everything also was that he made a few racial slurs within the sex tape when he was talking about somebody that his daughter was dating at the time. And once that happened, WWE immediately removed everything dealing with Hulk Hogan. For those of you who don't know wrestling, Hulk Hogan is the Michael Jordan of wrestling, professional wrestling. I mean, he is the most iconic, no question, the most iconic person.
Started, had his own shitty movies that he started
and he's the person that made it commercial too.
I always preferred him as the character Thunderlips in Rocky 3.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, I forgot about that. No, but by far,
it's all part of the show.
But by far the most iconic pro wrestler. I mean, he was in the WWE Hall of Fame, probably just one of the giant banners in the Hall of Fame, and I believe he had a contract that was for the rest of his life. Just like basically WWE would be owning his brand or whatnot for the rest of his life. Well, that instantly ended. Like literally, contract ended. Every image of Hulk Hogan associated with WWE removed, and I mean that's huge. I mean for him that is like devastating.
He got Benoit.
What?
Benoit. He didn't even kill his family.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Benoit. But Benoit's not even close. Benoit's not even close. Well, he's not even close.
He's not close. He didn't murder his family.
No, I mean he's not even the stature. Not even close to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, he's kind of famous for different reasons, isn't he, Chris? kind of a little bit different.
Have you seen the fucking squirming? The stupid fucking shitty. Oh god, I usually don't. I try not to do this. Like, how people revel when in of like people who have been fucked that you disagree with. Like, I really do think Gawker is a bunch of piece of shit. Have you seen there was that one tweet they made where it's like a judge told us that we have to take down the Hulk Hogan video.
We're
not gonna do it. Yeah. No, it wasn't even here's why. It was just we're not gonna do it. And like a stupid fucking smiley face or some shit.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Good decision, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was a YouTube video of one of the attorneys were examining him, and he made some stupid joke during his deposition about
about the 4-year-olds.
Yeah. I think that's funny.
He said,
my fucking god.
He said that he considered he would publish anything of a 4-year-old and above. He would consider that newsworthy.
Goodness, that's terrible.
So he was making a joke during a deposition.
Oh my god!
He made a joke about child pornography and how he would actually publish it in the public domain. Now, I want you to think about that joke for a moment. That means that between the ages of 5 and I guess 17 in America, where you wouldn't be of the age of consent, he would put that sex tape out in the public domain, and obviously, violate the victim's rights. He said that under deposition. So,
okay, all right, but continue on.
Everything said here, and he had how many fucking lawyers did he have present in that room? There were 3 or 4, and everything going on in the deposition is going to be recorded and fucking cross-examined, and oh my god,
they shook their head. They shook their head.
He said it, and then under cross-examination, he said, "Oh yeah, I was just joking." And then they said, "Okay, so your defense of that is it's a joke. Yeah, you think that's a funny joke? You're joking about the key component of this case, the First Amendment, and what constitutes newsworthiness." And he goes, "I never said it was a joke." And then they go, "Okay, we'll get the stenographer to read back the testimony."
Oh yeah, and they read it back.
And he was just sat there like, "Oh, this guy got fucking wrecked."
And you wonder why he got lost 115 million.
Do you know why people are so upset about everything going on with Gawker right now, Chris? Do you understand the history here?
I mean, which part of the history? I mean, I understand why people are pissed.
So mad about the Hulk Hogan thing.
Well,
it's because when the fappening happened, when all of those celebrity nudes were leaked from the iCloud,
yeah.
Gawker was one of the loudest fucking organizations And Kotaku went out about how like this is disgusting, and you guys are, you know, everybody that's looking at these
Right.
pictures is like an eye rapist, and you guys are the worst people in the world for doing this, violating these girls' privacy or whatever. The fact that they took that hugely fucking strong stance on that and then had no problem publishing the Hulk Hogan shit is like one of the reasons why a lot of people are really enraged.
Let me tell you some other shit about Gorka, right? Like, and their wonderful defense of privacy over the fattening. This is the same company that I believe tried to publicly crowdfund a video, $200,000, so they could buy and publish a video of the now deceased Rob Ford smoking crack, right? And they publicly announced that. Type it in, Rob Ford smoking crack video for sale is the headline.
Jeez.
And if I remember rightly, let me just check. I'm just going to Google this because I don't want to get anything wrong. But I believe Jezebel, which is another, that's the feminist vertical in the Gorka portfolio, they actually doxed teenagers over some anti. I think it was to do with like some anti-feminist sentiment, and they were arguing for whether creep shots should be allowed on Reddit or something. It's a long time ago. But anyway, so they've had no problems. It's agenda-driven. This is the problem with Gorka. It's agenda-driven, and it's not consistent. 1 minute they're for privacy, you know, when it's women, and obviously they're like want to drive. And plus, as well, that they're so anti-Reddit because Gorka got temporarily banned from Reddit over the Violent Acres story, which again, for those that don't know, they exposed and outed the Reddit mod who was in charge of all the subreddits like creep shots and jailbait and all of this shit, and they outed him and outed his name, and I actually didn't have a problem with that, by the way. So I'm kind of controversial with that, but they outed him and Reddit hated it because it's like the one thing you can't do is reveal a little power tripping moderator's identity. You can't do that, and because of that, they banned Gorka from Reddit. So ever since then, Gorka and all their verticals, Kotaku, everyone, they've gone after Reddit. You'll regularly see articles on Gorka. Isn't Reddit a cesspit? So the fact that the fappening had been, the images that were taken from the celebrity clouds have been so openly distributed on Reddit, even had a subreddit dedicated to it, that is why they went after it so hard. That and, of course, the fact, misogynies and all of that bullshit, right? But, like, ultimately, they don't give a fuck about privacy at all. They're called fucking Gorka. I mean, they go case fucking closed. You don't care about privacy whatsoever.
Right.
But they'll occasionally defend it and they'll occasionally violate it, depending on the
what's better for them,
profit
of
nature.
course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, they're a fucking joke of a publication. Like Breitbart's been covering the trial with fucking relish. And what's interesting about Breitbart's coverage of the fucking trial is that unlike Gorka, when the verdict came in, we continued to cover it. Gorka were doing live coverage of the trial every day like it was a cool joke. And as soon as the judgment came in, and as soon as that massive amount of like $115 million was said, it's not on Gorka. What a fucking surprise. And I certainly hope it doesn't get overturned because it will effectively bankrupt them. It's gonna, you know, complex. But that said, it'll probably get reduced on appeal. It's an excessive amount that was given by the jury. The jury awarded that amount of damages because they were so repulsed by the Gorka defendants. They were so repulsed by the editor.
That's true.
Like that's why it happened. The jury just absolutely despised this guy. Found him. You can't make jokes about child pornography in a fucking deposition and how you'd happily publish it. You cannot fucking say that and expect the jury to be like, yeah, I think this guy deserves to get let off the hook. This sounds like a responsible publication. Let's not bankrupt them.
Well, you saw that they added 25 million to the original 115 million when they were pleaded for mercy. Oh man, it was so brutal. So brutal.
Just absolutely loathe this guy. He's got to pay $100,000 out of his own personal money.
I know, I saw that too.
Like they were just like, do you know what? You all need to burn. Like, fuck you. So their appeal, I mean, even if they get it down to half, it's still a huge message. And Gorka, at the moment, they're beating their chest and saying, oh, we'll win on appeal because Hulk Hogan's a racist. I'd be real careful because I think Hulk Hogan now has the money in the bank to have a sustained legal campaign against you for fucking libel. I'd really watch what you publish from now on.
Well, he's
But will
like
Gawker
he's
learn?
getting
Probably
money.
not.
He's not gonna have the money until it's just settled. So I don't know if he's gonna have more money.
it's
Well,
coming.
I mean, I could be wrong here. I'm talking on my ass a little bit. I think that Hulk Hogan probably has a little bit of his own money.
Yes, he
I'm not
does.
actually sure that. I don't
He
know his
does.
finances, but
No, he does. I don't think Hulk Hogan's actually broke. He's.
yeah.
I mean, he's not like crazy rich because a lot of these guys blow money, but I've never heard him.
I'm telling you, after this court case, he is.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna
Yeah.
get a gold bandana. You know what I'm
A
saying?
gold
Like,
bandana.
solid gold bandana.
Dream.
Yeah, it was great to see. Gawker have needed to be put in their place for a long time. They've been out there just running wild. And like I say, look, I've liked some of the reporting they've done. To characterize them as a completely irresponsible publication that's never done anything of journalistic merit would be a complete falsehood. They have in the past, but a lot of the time, they're absolutely deplorable. In fact, I remember, I think it was Gawker that ran one story where there was a preacher who had been using Grindr or something to find gay guys to have sex with on the side. And he was one of these like kind of fire and brimstone preachers, you know, like the word of God is exactly how it is. And if you lay with another man, thou shalt be slain. So is God's will. And all of this crazy, the voices in my head, gibberish, like
Okay.
like you get down there. Anyway, Gawker found out that he was having sex with men and published an article basically just outing him as having sex with men on the grounds that because he's a preacher and sort of a public figure and a hypocrite, it was kind of newsworthy. And it's like, you're stretching that. You're outing a closet gay man who lives in an area
Well,
where
this is
that type of
this is
homophobia and bigoted response could have very real retaliatory aspects to it, and you've published that, and they stood by their right to publish it. So this is not the first time they've colored outside of the lines by any fucking means.
I mean, it's First Amendment versus 14th Amendment, right? That's kind of why this case again is pretty interesting. If it wasn't volleyed so badly by the guy at the top here, it might have been even more of a compelling case because it is about just setting possibly precedents and things like that, in terms of, again, First Amendment versus 14th Amendment, rights of privacy versus freedom of speech, right? So, I don't know, normally, like, I guess where is the limit for this, like, Richard, in terms of being able to write about things that are fringe, are really close to that privacy fringe?
Right, so this is where I stand on the issue, right? Like, celebrities having sex isn't a story in and of itself. Like, a celebrity's sex life is not a story in and of itself.
That's pretty much paparazzi work at that point.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, just publishing a sex tape, just because, like, the Paris Hilton thing, I mean, even though it actually worked out for them long term, I didn't know who the fuck Paris Hilton was till I was watching that grainy green footage going, fucking hell, she gives some half-assed head. She can't handle this at all. I don't know how dumb you have to be to not be able to suck a dick properly, but anyway. So... it's not complicated. No. Maybe I'm not speaking from experience here, but anyway.
You're okay. All right.
Point being that celebrity having sex isn't a story in and of its fucking self. Where it becomes more nuanced is like, what does that mean? Is this person a politician, for example, who campaigns on a platform of family values and will impose legislature that enforces like marital values and he's against same-sex marriage or whatever, and then you catch him having an extramarital affair with a man? All of a sudden, that's a news story.
Yeah.
Because the sexual exploits color what he does with his job and his position of power. Now it's in the public interest. That's the line Gawker never cared about walking. The Hulk Hogan sex tape was published, quote, by the editor who approved the sex tape because it amused me. That is not good enough. That is not the newsworthy standard. Your own personal amusement is not the newsworthy standard. So that's the line. And I think, look, I would hate to be a celebrity. And, I guess in a way I'm like super Z-list celebrity. I would hate, like, if I had a sex and it got filmed. Like, I've never sent a dick pic, by the way. Like, there's no chance of that ever coming out, thankfully. I've never sent a dick pic. I don't
think any of us here have sent a dick pic. I don't think any of us here have sent a dick pic. Like,
all right, I've never taken one. I know what it looks like. It's down there. I'm looking at it. You know, so I'm never gonna have to worry about that. Some people are, but dick pics are sacred. They shouldn't be out there in the public domain. But again, if you're sending it to certain people you shouldn't be, then maybe it should be public. Gorka straight don't give a fuck. Gorka straight don't give a fuck about that line. I just feel, you know, it's like just a shame. Like, it's just a fucking shame. Like, again, if you're in a position of power over somebody and you're sending them unsolicited dick pics, that's a story. If you're the kind of person who goes out publicly and says, hey, this is the way that you should behave, and this is moral, and misogyny's real, and women shouldn't be treated badly, and then you send unsolicited dick pics to women on the side, that's a story. But just two people having sex because one of them's famous, it's not a story.
Well, like I said, it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that
video
too.
Of my hairy white ass came out one time. You know?
Like I said, it was some of that, but it also had to do with just the racial slurs he made in it, right? Like, in fact, I think most of the headlines that I saw whenever that sex tape was, you know, released or whatever, when it broke, was that, you know, Hulk Hogan calling, you know, like Brooke Hogan's, you know, boyfriend, you know, just the N-word, right? So I think that made more news, honestly, at the moment than the sex tape did.
That's another line of the Gorka defense. Gorka is saying he didn't do this because of emotional distress, and therefore the award for emotional distress is invalid. They're saying that he did it to stop tapes getting out where he would be revealed as a racist. Now, in that defense, which they made publicly in an op-ed on the front page of Gorka, they basically have kind of almost semi-admitted to the fact that they leaked those racist tapes to hurt Hulk Hogan's career. It's very heavily implied by what they're saying. I don't think it's a great leap to arrive at that conclusion.
Even if that's true, I don't think that matters. Like, even if they did it explicitly to hurt his career, does it? I mean,
no,
part of
intention.
I agree with you. You know, but that's the defense they're going with. And you know, look, again, it comes down to this: is it great that a guy who obviously works in an industry where he has to have working relationships with lots of black people talks about how he doesn't want his daughter dating black people and calls them niggers and things like this? Is that acceptable? Absolutely not. That's fucking unacceptable. That is not a very nice side of the fucking Hulkster by any stretch of the imagination. And there's no really excusing it. There is no excusing it. But equally, when private conversations become public, fuck, dude, like, anything can happen. Yeah, everyone's fucked, right? You know what I mean? Like, who ain't said something privately that they, I hope no one overheard that one. You know, like, we've all done it. And shit, like, this is why hot mics and esports, it kills careers, because we're all fucking little edgelords. And when we're on broadcast, have you seen this? And then obviously we say some shit and it goes out. And it's just on VOD forever. It's just on Twitch forever. And if Twitch delete it, someone's already downloaded it, and then they're ripping it, and it's on you. You're gonna have to come out and apologize. Hot mics end esports careers, or certainly hamper them to a great degree. It really sets you back. So I've got a degree of sympathy here, but equally, yeah, what Hogan was saying was fucking deplorable. You know, I despise racism and anybody that truly has racist ideology in their heart, and there's no getting around it. What Hogan said actually is racist. Because he's talking about racial purity and how he doesn't want his daughter to date black people. That's not just dropping the N-word casually. That's something a bit more unpalatable. So it's a shame, and maybe punitive measures by WWE was appropriate, because obviously he will have a morality clause in his contract, and he has to abide by it. And, you know, how can he come out and do segments with Booker T? Well, I don't know, Cole. How can he do that?
No. I mean, like,
That's true.
I don't think anybody.
Although, actually, Booker T called Hulk Hogan a nigger first, actually. People remember that famous clip.
But that's, God, that's awesome. That clip when he goes, oh.
We're coming for you, nigga.
And then he just, like, breaks character for a second. That was awesome.
Yeah, but you know, like,
Steven, Steven, you're gonna say something. Steven, you're gonna come in, right?
I was gonna say, like, I don't think anybody faults WWE for ties like that. Like you said, like, it wasn't just like he said the N-word or something. Like, it was pretty almost Mel Gibson tier. Do you think of?
I don't know if it's Mel Gibson tier. Mel Gibson tier is another level, man. Another level.
Maybe not quite.
Mel Gibson referred to a group of black people as a pack. A pack. Implying
they're animals or something.
Yeah, and of course also implied they have a propensity for rape. It was disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that
coming
level.
back from
There's
that. There is no coming back from that. In fact, Key and Peele do a sketch about this where they're saying they're actually all right with him using the fucking N-word. It is Pac that they don't like. Like if he said, they said if it was a pack of Afro-Americans going to a physics class, they'd still be offended by it because the pack is the dehumanizing aspect. It's unreal. Mel Gibson, like again, private conversations, but deplorable what indefensible what has been said in those private conversations.
Okay, well, you think that the settlement's going to be less, or after appeals and stuff, but it's still going to be a huge chunk. All right, so Gawker is worth.
I mean, look, even if it gets halved on appeal,
it's still a lot of money. Yeah, Gawker's they're worth 83 million. They're worth 83 million.
And the idea that Gawker aren't scared by this court case is fucking hilarious, Chris. The idea they're not scared about this court case because actually a large portion before they awarded the extra damages of 25 million.
Another 25 million. That's crazy.
They had a segment in the court where the defendants for Gawker, the defending lawyers, basically went out and appealed for mercy.
Yep, that's
actually asked for mercy.
Yep.
Like, please, just before you do anything else, please. We are just a humble publication, please. Don't bankrupt us. We employ lots of people, all of them vacuous, dribbling airheads. So yeah, it was they begged for mercy. So they got real problems. I think the guy who owns Gawker, I think his personal wealth is only valued at 360 million.
Well, there's a parent company. Well, the parent company is worth 250 million. I think
even so, 150 million. Like holy fucking shit, you know what I mean?
That's what I mean. So it kind of begs the question: what's that mean for Kotaku? Right, Kotaku is just one thing that's under the Gawker umbrella.
I hope Gawker, Kotaku. I hope it's all wiped off the face of the earth. Like fuck it. I mean, look. At the end of the day, they've had numerous opportunities to salvage something good about themselves. They've had numerous opportunities to just ditch the agenda-driven bullshit, to stop this pity party they have when, like over at Kotaku, when they get banned from games developer conferences for constantly leaking stuff, when they get put on blacklists. They always try and frame themselves as these journalistic heroes, when in actual fact, they've got no integrity, no consistency. Their publication is all over the place, and they engage in some of the filthiest fucking practices that you can. They're a muckraking publication. That's fine. I've actually got nothing against muckraking. I'm a journalist. I rake my fair share of muck. But the point is, you've got to be consistent. You've got to employ journalistic ethics, and you've got to employ values. Kotaku, Gawker, all of their verticals in their portfolio have consistently not done that. And unfortunately, they've been unabashed and unapologetic about that stance that they've done. So fuck it, like it's time to just take it all down with a flamethrower. I hope it is the end. I really do.
Yeah. Steven, thoughts? You think it's going to go under? Think it's the end of Kotaku?
I don't like to see dissenting opinion silenced in such a way, but Kotaku has just been so horrendously, or Gawker, I guess, has been so horrendously hypocritical in regards to how they deal with everything. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it, I guess, if they went under.
All right. Well, we'll have to see. These things kind of play out for a long time, and lawyers get rich, and keep getting richer. So we'll have to see.
There's no doubt that fucking lawyer that cross-examined.
Oh my god,
that guy, he earned his fucking money.
Yeah,
he fucking earned his money. Do you think that's an appropriate joke to be making? Yeah, wrecked fucker, get wrecked. That's why you paid a bit. That's why you paid a big money for a lawyer. The thing is, as well, like just as a point before we move on, like that lawyer was so fucking sharp because what he did there was not only did he quickly seize upon the moral aspect of it. You're saying you would happily publish child pornography. Do you think child pornography is an appropriate joke to be making in a deposition? He then quickly, when the guy was like, oh, it's not a joke, and then he said, read about the testimony and said, well, you said it was a joke. He then quickly, thinking on his feet, said, so do you think joking about newsworthiness, it obviously doesn't matter to you if you're going to joke about it. And of course, their central defense was the newsworthiness of the story. So that lawyer was fucking on point, like lawyer game on point, for real.
Okay, well, let's definitely move on. I think actually, before we move on, I think the lawyers make like 40% or 40 or 50% of a lot of these settlements, which is insane. Holy crap. But Hulk Hogan will still be a rich man after this. All right, well, let's move on to some, I guess, just things happening on Twitch. That's the segment we have here. And I'll start off by talking about Nadeshot returning to Twitch. You guys check that out that night? When he came back, and I mean, it was just crazy sub train. So he broke the sub train record, which was, I think at the time, 2,100 subs. So I think within, I don't know how many hours, it wasn't even that long. It might have been like 2 hours, 3 hours that he kind of broke the subtrain record. And for those who don't know Nadeshot's like, you know, he's well known, probably most popular Call of Duty player ever. And you know, he's streaming before, then he left he basically left Twitch for MLG, and then he made his, you know, big return a few days ago, or 3 or 4 days ago. And it's big news when he came back, and he got up to like 89,000, I think concurrence at the time. But kind of crazy when that. I mean, is there anybody else that could generate this type of hype on Twitch that you can think of that's not on Twitch right now if they came back?
I think Call of Duty was like the last bastion of gaming that hadn't been on Twitch yet because they were on MLG.TV for so long.
Right.
I can't think of any other large gaming communities that.
Like that's like on his
Twitch right now.
That's on a Zubu or something like that. Yeah, I can't think of anybody either. But who would be equivalent to that? Let's just say there was one. Like, who would be equivalent to what Nadeshot just did like that? I mean, 89,000.
Maybe some of the bigger league guys.
You think like Dyrus?
During the drama, like Doublelift during the drama of him switching from teams and everything. Didn't he get like 70,000 viewers on stream? Some crazy, or 50,000 viewers on
maybe
stream?
50. I think it's like 50. But 89 is like another level, which was, I don't know, it's really, really impressive. And I don't know, it's just kind of cool. Did you catch that, Richard? You know Nadeshot at all or no?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, look, this is an interesting situation because obviously Nadeshot is sort of trying to have his cake and eat it. You know, this is a guy who took a huge deal from MLG.
Yep.
It might even have been over $1 million. I'm not too sure about the specifics.
It would have had to be something like that.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, he took this deal, went, endorsed MLG TV, you know, tacitly, openly, brazenly as well. I mean, you know, on all levels, took the money, and then turns around and has said as late as of October last year, I really regret it. I feel partially responsible for the reduction in viewing numbers. Well, yeah, as you should. You made a decision. You took the money, and you pocketed the money, and you benefited from making a decision that perhaps wasn't the best for the ecosystem in which you thrive, and best for the game.
Wait, are you saying that it was Nadeshot's fault that the MLG TV failed?
No, he said that.
Really? He said that?
No. He said he feels that the platform was never going to succeed, and that had he stayed on Twitch, the game would have been in a better position.
Oh, the game. Oh, yeah. That's okay. Yeah, I thought you meant like. Yeah,
that's a really mature statement to make. It's probably
It was
right,
in October 2015. It was in a Q&A video. I'll just source this because obviously sourcing is important, and I'll read you the quotes. He said, I just feel very responsible for the decline in viewership in the competitive Call of Duty scene. When I left Twitch, I was really at the forefront of competitive Call of Duty. Viewership was thriving. Other esports and the players and the casters and the analysts were giving our game more respect than we had in previous times. We had strength in numbers. People were watching our streams. We had thousands of people showing up to our tournaments, and we were just in the best position that competitive Call of Duty has ever been. And then in one day, flip of the switch, I go and stream on another website, and basically it caused all the other pro players to go, which is absolutely true, and sign on and stream on MLG TV, and it basically alienated the competitive Call of Duty community away from all the other esports when we were trying to climb out of that hole in the first place. So it's good that he recognizes it, but it's like recognizing a mistake doesn't necessarily absolve you from the mistake. It was always going to be a risk. And MLG, if people remember, MLG were really pushing to have a monopoly over this Activision, Call of Duty scene. They were stopping people streaming their games on other platforms. They were saying if you compete in the league, you have to stream on MLG TV exclusively, the games. And they were making some very aggressive moves. And also, they were also not censoring, but censuring, punishing people who spoke out about it. And meanwhile, while that was happening, Nadeshot was very conspicuously absent from the debate. So I don't think he can necessarily absolve himself, but it's good that he can recognize the mistakes that he made. And certainly, I feel that the MLG TV project was a failed one, and no one feels that more acutely than the competitive Call of Duty scene.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, he probably has a point there. I mean, going to MLG is like, in a way, equivalent to going to like a Zubu. I mean, you're not going to get any viewership. There's not going to be any kind of cross promotion between the different esports, and it's impossible to grow. At that point, we've seen it. We've seen many competitors try. Our Twitch competitors try that. So then him coming back to
anybody?
Yeah.
Here's like an interesting question. I don't actually know. Is there anybody that like makes a living streaming now or doing anything like that started on a not on owned or not on Twitch, like somebody that started on Hitbox or a Zubu? Does anybody have any idea? Or anybody maybe
somebody
in chat?
might have started like on Ustream or like.
No, I'm talking specifically like Hitbox or a Zubu, or I guess mainly a Zubu now. But
There's
like,
no
has
way.
anybody ever started on one of these other platforms or MLG TV, like started streaming there and now makes a living streaming?
No, I can't think of anybody.
I wonder if anyone in chat knows or has heard of anybody.
I mean, the popular streamers even get like 50 viewers on these platforms. It's like Nade Chat probably got more, but. I know some people that went to Zubu, and it was just really sad seeing their streams on there when they used to get thousands of people. But regardless, anyways, it's definitely
I know a lot, but Owen was like an actual a legitimate streaming platform for a while.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was actually winning the war until it lost all the money.
It was
until
it was
and
the
it lost all the league streamers.
Yeah, it was the default league. It was the preferred league platform. Yeah, so that's definitely a huge, contract, or at least a group of contracts. So there got to be somebody there.
If they just not overpaid, and had just a bit more money in the bank, I think our entire industry looks very different.
Maybe.
Well, you took some of that. You took some of that own money. You took some of that own money, right?
Who, me?
Yeah, didn't you take some of that own money?
Isn't Steven still owed some of that money?
I'm at a net negative probably.
Well, nobody said. I mean, but you still take that.
Yeah, of course I initially, yeah. But I think Owen just didn't invest enough. Oh, maybe put too much money in acquiring talent and not enough in upgrading infrastructure, and they just couldn't keep it running. The infrastructure part is really, really hard. That's why it's really hard to get a competitor right now to Twitch, and why it's probably never going to happen, or not unless somebody really big takes it seriously, because getting that infrastructure shit out of the way is so fucking difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, another thing to talk about is just Twitch kind of getting into different categories, and like they did with Creative and Bob Ross, they're trying a similar thing with Julia Childs here, which is pretty interesting. Choosing Julia because I don't know. I never used to watch her shows. I mean, it's really old. I mean, they were pretty old, and obviously she's a very iconic cooking figure. What do you think about, I guess, this and just the whole, I guess, phenomenon of using old, I guess, icons or icons back from the 80s and even the 70s, and trying to make them hip and into almost like memes nowadays. Steven, any thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting, I guess.
Yeah, come on. You must have an opinion on that.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
I mean, this is your domain. This is your domain, dude.
This is what I want from Twitch, and it's never, ever, 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 ever going to happen. I'm wasting my breath saying it. This is what I want from Twitch. I wish that Twitch would have a very clear mission plan for what their goals are right now. Like, that's all I would like. If Twitch's plan is to expand into doing every kind of content like Ustream or Livestream kind of does, and that's their goal, it would be sick to see that on paper, because then it would be easier for everybody to adjust, or if anybody wanted to make a move in that realm, it would be nice, or just to understand what's coming and to understand the environment that you're operating in. It's really, really, really frustrating to me that Twitch is like just so in the dark about everything. They never, ever, ever like just come out and say what it is they're doing or what their plans are. So, I mean, in terms of them like acquiring like outside talent to hosting on Twitch, I mean, in terms of like promoting that specific material, like, yeah, that's cool. But I really wish sometimes that they would be more upfront with what exactly they're trying to achieve, I guess. Right.
Okay, I mean,
I've always said that Twitch's strength is going to be in becoming more like online broadcasting platform where instead of it just being about fucking games, it's about, you know, other stuff that's tangentially linked to, I guess, nerd culture. And, you know, they've done experiments with, you know, types of music. They've done live concert streaming.
Yep, which...
I think wrestling as well. They and, you know, the Bob Ross thing, and you know, this for me is all part of the progress. It is a little bit cringy when they take these sort of, you know, defunct shows and they foist them on kids who are only watching them because it's like Twitch,
the popular,
you know,
thing.
Like yeah, it's like Twitch plays Pokemon. You know, it's a fad. It's gonna fizzle out. And actually, it's a fad that's only made better when people contribute to it in a positive way, like, you know, Steven trying to kill whatever the fuck it was called, Bird Jesus or whatever. You know, which actually made the whole experience vaguely entertaining instead of it just being a terrible exercise. But, you know, like I think this is a good step in the right direction for Twitch, and I hope they continue to do stuff like this and maybe get some other shows that perhaps stuff that isn't just meme worthy, but actual stuff that you know, other perhaps a younger generation could actually gain some benefit from watching. You know, there are some shows
like
out
what?
there that
like what?
I don't know. I mean, fuck. Put me on the spot, why don't you?
I knew.
No, but like, okay, well, I mean, you know, like there's some old shows, and I don't know about how you'd have to buy the broadcasting rights and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's just cool stuff that I fucking go.
The science guy, like Mr. Or Doc. Oh gosh.
You know, but like
the neighborhood, maybe that would make Twitch a better environment.
Mr. Wizard, that's who I was thinking of. Mr. Wizard.
Educational shit, or some of the more off-the-wall kids programs that we had in the 80s, like, you know, like that. Okay, but what about that Ulysses cartoon? Was it like Ulysses 2030 or something, or 3010? Like, I can't remember what year it was fucking set in. But basically, this is how you know that people were just smoking fucking all about shit in the 80s. So this is a cartoon where it's basically Homer's The Odyssey, but in space. And,
I remember this. Yes.
Yeah. And on top of that, let's just throw in a robot called No for comedy value, and it's a fucking baller cartoon. Like, it's
it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, get that on fucking Twitch, because seriously, that's out of control how good that is. So, you know, it'd be nice to see some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I think one of the again, going on with what I said for like the clear mission statement, like, I feel like one of the things that's kind of annoying is that, like, with Twitch, like Twitch has more or less been about the same for the past 2 to 3 years, you think, right? Like, no major features have really been implemented. Chat really hasn't been tweaked that much. The VOD system is still a huge mess. Yeah, so like stuff like that is a little bit annoying, and then you see them branch off in like a completely new direction without really making any statements about it. Somebody in chat brought up the point that it kind of feels sometimes like maybe Twitch just like grabbed a whole bunch of gamers and kind of co-opted like that gaming movement so that they could get into general video streaming. Like, that would be really disappointing if they started to invest a whole bunch of time into doing the non-gaming streams and then that became like the focus of Twitch. I don't think that it'll get that bad, but I can see that kind of being.
I mean, that's got to be the end goal, right? The end goal is to become just a general streaming platform for everything. And
yeah, sure, but then you understand how people can feel a little.
Of course, but there are a lot of, you know, just additional eyes that they can get, and if we, you know, they do lose some gamers because of it, or gamer viewers because of it, they're going to gain, you know, equally if they got into, you know, let's just say the sports arena. Let's just say they started like streaming sports for whatever reason. There's a lot of people that can get there too. And they're in this kind of weird spot. I almost feel like because YouTube has been failing so hard with their whole live platform, that Twitch is like maybe seeing opportunities to expand a little bit more than they originally anticipated, because maybe they were trying to hunker down, you know, like, okay, we're gonna have a real possible contender or just a rival here, you know, with YouTube, and a lot of things making sense, right, with so many huge YouTube channel owners. But it hasn't been working out for YouTube. So, you know, Twitch I think is starting to look at it. I mean, we saw the Ultra, you know, like you mentioned music, right, Richard? The Ultra concert was streamed 3 straight days, you know, here from Miami. And that thing was getting like 100,000 viewers, like a big esport event, basically. So I can see that happening a lot more for sure. But making, you know, you pointing out that it still revolves around nerd culture You think they're going to limit themselves to that for a long time? Because I think you are right. They're definitely.
I think they'd be smart to.
Yeah.
I think it's got to have some tangential. You can't just like, today we're gonna do. Actually, this would be pretty funny. I was gonna say today we're gonna do the Republican primary debates, but that would actually be great on Twitch. But like
Steven would be hosting that shit, man.
Oh yeah, for fucking real. I've seen him going ham on this whole Trump thing. But like I think.
But then conversely, it gets a little bit annoying because sometimes I get like a random Twitch admin will message me and it's kind of be like, "Yo, you can't do this much non-gaming stuff. Like, make sure you."
Yeah, see, that's the part,
well,
right?
Okay, I guess. Like, I'm not even marked as playing a game on Twitch. I don't understand how, but okay.
Wait. So you were playing a game while talking about it, or you were just sitting there talking?
No. Because sometimes I'll dedicate like large chunks of just focusing on it or whatever. But
see, that's what I don't get sometimes. Is that like, I don't know. It's kind of. It just seems that it's just, we just play. If you just have to play games and then you can talk about what you want, that's just, I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
Silly. But again, like this all goes back to what I said. It'd be nice if they just had like a really clear mission statement about what it is they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And like I'd like to see stuff like like let's have some like public access stuff where it's like I've said this before in previous shows, like we don't have like I don't know any kind of original content beyond talk shows. I want to see actual scripted, filmed, content on here. Like, like look at how Netflix started. Mm-hmm. It was like it started out as a bunch of shit that they could get cheap and sell on a subscription package. Now down the road, they're actually funding like $90 million movies with Will Smith in it. So I mean, this is how you grow a platform. And I think Twitch, the next step for me is they have to get into original programming, or at least empower content creators to be able to just do a little bit more on their platform. I think that's the future. And I think you have to stay within the parameters of nerd culture to begin with, though, because that's what we're all here for. We're all here for the games.
Yeah, at least for now. Right.
Yeah, exactly. At least for now. So we definitely. And again, like you could start with documentaries, right? You're telling me Twitch doesn't have the right? Amazon-owned Twitch doesn't have the fucking resources to do like documentaries on the popular streamers of Twitch. I mean, this isn't a great fucking leap. Do some original programming, like do some fucking, have some, you pay to watch it. I think they did do some stuff like this with some documentaries in the past, but it was other people who were making the documentaries, and then they would have like an exclusive launch on Twitch and this sort of thing. But I'd like to see Twitch go out there and fund some original content.
I mean, would people watch original content? See, that's the thing. Like, right now, Twitch culture just generally, there's just so many different channels, and I feel like the community, Twitch does have this overlying community and culture, but for the most part, it's just communities within each channel, right? Mm-hmm. And then from whenever that channel's not on, then that's kind of like when you look and just kind of see, oh, it's just what's generally happening on Twitch, right? So unlike TV, where there's limited number of channels, and it's all about just getting space on these channels with original content, and even Netflix to a certain extent, there's definitely, I would say there's probably less original content like that's running, like kept up to date, than the number of channels on Twitch, right? And I don't know. I'm not sure original content would actually work on Twitch, at least to the extent that Netflix does. I don't know. I just think the culture is just not like that. The culture is just so. I mean, even these talk shows, right? Like we can't even get some of these talk shows. These talk shows will never get to the point where it's just like a huge live event, or something like that much, or even just like the most popular TV show. Where literally everybody's watching it.
I feel that's because like no one's really stayed with it for a significant amount of time, and the people that do them a lot, they move on to other things. I don't see why you couldn't have like a daily show that could take off. Here's Twitch endorsed one where they put it on the front page. Let's say Twitch. Earmarked some streamer as being like their Howard Stern. Let's say it's Steven, right? And they want him to do like the Stephen Bennell show. And it's just a daily rant for 2 hours, and he brings on people, and he does call-ins, and he wrecks them, and they put that on the front page of Twitch. How long do you think it takes before that gets big? It's in a studio, it's slick, it looks good, Steven's allowed to go off on these wild tangents and be entertaining. I think you're pulling in, 20,000 viewers very quickly, and then it grows and snowballs from there. Then it gets mainstream media attention.
No, but the thing is, Richard, that like what you're talking about there, sure. I mean, when it comes to like, podcasts, like, I don't know, like let's just say Joe Rogan's podcast or something like that, right? Yeah, I mean that's kind of like how it's working for them. But on Twitch, it's like you can have these kind of shows like that we've been doing, or I've been doing for a while now. But the thing is that sponsors and people they just want views. So like a streamer that streams for 8 hours, that's popular. Sponsors are going to want to sponsor those people because they're going to get these views for that amount of time. Versus like something happens for an hour and a half a week, or 2 hours a week. They're less likely to do that because it's only 2 hours. There's a guy that streams at 8 hours, right? So guys like just the big streamers like Summit and those guys, they're not doing shows. They're streaming. They're having their own show, right? Which is like their normal everyday stream. Same with Steven and those guys. That's what people are looking for on Twitch, and that's kind of what I think the environment is, even for sponsors looking for to advertise their products and things like that, which is unlike just these structured TV shows and high production shows and original content like you're talking about. It's like, is it even worth the time?